giant robots smashing into other giant robots.
This is the Giant Robots Smashing into Other Giant Robots podcast, where we explore the design, development, and business of great products. I'm your host, Chad Pytel, and with me today is...
your other host, Will Larry.
And your other host, Sami Birnbaum.
Today we're going to talk about teachable moments, maybe areas or instances in our past where we had a big mistake or failure, or just maybe we saw a train wreck from afar and said, I'm not going to do that myself.
Yes.
So we've been wondering for a while, Will, why your microphone hasn't sounded as good as it should be. We've solved it.
Technical difficulties. That's what it is. I didn't realize that it was supposed to be talked to from the side and not the top.
Yeah, I've had different mics like that as well, because this one is a top one because the way the angle of like the actual receiver is in there. But on my previous one, I also had it like a side on.
Yeah, I didn't even pay any attention to it. I didn't realize there's ones that was on top versus the side. That makes a lot of sense.
I do think that this is like, how are you supposed to know, right? And
yes.
Shouldn't, I mean, maybe there is instructions or something, but I feel like this is not on you. It should be on them.
Well, I appreciate it. Because I definitely didn't read the instructions because I'm like, it's a microphone. You just plug it in and go. So, yeah.
Well, you sound good now, Will.
Oh, well, thank you. Now I'm become a singer because I know how to use the microphone now.
Oh, that was all that was stopping you?
Yes, that's it. And a voice, a singing voice, but
that's the technicality.
Yeah, I fixed this that easy. Why can't I fix the other part?
If we can just auto-tune you.
Yes.
This is where we have Ollie cut in a part of the episode where you've been auto-tuned.
Yes. Hey, I don't know if you know, well, Sami, you may know this person, but...
You know T-Pain, the person that's like auto-tuned person here?
Sami, you just missed the perfect opportunity to say, yeah!
Yes. He sings a lot better. This is my opinion, a lot better without auto-tune than with auto-tune. I understand he was trying to separate himself, but some people sound better without auto-tune. I need it, but...
Yeah, but he was the one who brought it in, right? That was like his thing. Like He started bringing in that sound and that vibe.
Yeah, he was on a show and no one really guessed who he was because he didn't use auto-tune.
Oh, was it The Masked Singer?
Yep.
I love that show. Yes. It's like the candy of shows, but it's irresistible to me.
I haven't seen that show. Describe it to me.
So they have celebrities, all type of celebrities, and they literally are dressed in costumes, like very elaborate costumes. And then they sing. And they have a panel that tries to guess who they are. They also show like video clips throughout it with clues. And so you try to guess who's the singer behind the mask. And then I can't remember whoever has the lowest score.
Yeah, they get voted off, and whoever gets voted off has to reveal themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a few different Masked Singers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. There's like a whole cast for the season. It's a competition. Who can last the longest without getting voted off? And the last one wins something for charity, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. T-Pain used it to release an album because he won it. And so he released the album when it aired that he won.
And the important thing is the audience also doesn't know. Like if you're watching the show, you also don't know who's.
But are they all singers or no? I see. So T-Pain, because that is what he does. He is a singer, but they could be anyone. We should have the Masked coda. We should have to look at code and try and work out whose code is this at thoughtbot.
Ooh.
Would you have a style? Will, let's start with you. Do you think someone can tell it's you by looking at your code?
I would say no, because I'm horrible at like not having opinions, but like with stuff like that. I'm like, I'm just coding. I'm having fun. One way I'm doing it this way and it works. The next way it's something else. And so I guess that's my style. So I guess if you see like code over time, you're like, this is not the same as it was this time. When I first got into coding, I worked with a lot of people that are opinionated, and I was like, I can't do that. That's just too much on me. That's too much energy towards coding and stuff. Now, when it depends on something, or I'm like, hey, this just can't work, or designer, this is too elaborate and we're spending hours, I'll voice that. But like code style, I'm like, if it works, it works. And if it's efficient, it's efficient. That's where I'm at.
That's cool. How about you, Chad?
Well, I think that's one of the benefits of having even just a basic style guide is that it puts the cognitive load away. So like even just simple rules that everyone agrees on the team to follow. I think that I don't know if someone could look at my code and tell it. I think what I try to do, at least as a developer, is only do the minimum, like, not make it complex, not make it a lot, and really break down what I'm working on into the smallest possible functional thing. And so if there's anything that someone might be able to look at and say that it might be that.
You wouldn't consider yourself like, not, how can I explain it? Like, oh man, that was a very cute, like elaborate code that you used.
I don't think so. That being said, like I often deliver pull requests that are the complete feature. But I will have been working in steps along the way.
I've heard people say that they can tell a thoughtbot code base from a non-thoughtbot code base. And that makes sense with what you're saying, because we've got a lot of style guides and we tend to have like opinions about a helpful way to write code, very much object-oriented design, test-driven development, which tends to lead itself to similar code bases.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. I think I can tell when I'm picking up a code base that's we've been working on from the get-go, like from the ground up, as opposed to when a client's coming with an existing code base. I'm on one now. There is a controller which has over 1,400 lines of code.
Ooh.
So there's like no service layer for anything. And because of that, there's also no tests, because that's really, really hard to test. I counted, I think, 8 or 9 conditionals in one controller method. And so it's become really, really hard to test as well, because there's too many branches of logic.
Is it a wizard?
What do you mean by a wizard?
I often see controllers with an action that has many conditionals, and the cause of that is where end user is going through a multi-step process, a wizard, and they're all submitting to the same action, but based on the state of an object, they're rendering a different view or doing a different thing in that action.
It could be. I have to look over it. I don't know.
I don't even
know. Like, it's so hard to understand, and only the person who wrote it can really understand what it's doing because of how complex it is.
What's your style?
Yeah. What about you?
It's evolved over time. I think when I started with Rails, I very much was doing a lot of stuff in the controller, a lot of stuff in the models. I think you would spot my style. I'm heavily influenced by Sandy Metz's work. You'll probably see me use probably more abstractions than I should. You'll probably like, I could be accused of coding towards abstractions instead of letting them reveal themselves. But that's because I get very excited about object-oriented like design and programming. I like my unit tests to be really, really isolated. So I will stub and mock everything that sits outside of the actual behavior I'm testing. So I keep them very isolated. Would you spot that? I don't know. I don't know if you would spot it, but that's kind of where I'm at currently. But it evolves over time. I think I'm like you, Will, as well. Where like I learn new things and pick up new things and design things in different ways.
You say that I do have a tale over the last couple months that my team has been laughing at me about. So over the last couple months, I've been learning, Ruby on Rails, and come from JavaScript. There's just some stuff that I'm like, man, how do I do this? So a lot of double ampersands, like, that's JavaScript. We use that often. And sometimes I'll use it in Rails and they're like, what are you doing? Like, I was like, it works. Like, what do you mean? They're like, all right, this is the best practice for Rails. And I'm like, oh, so like learning Rails right now, the best practices is what I'm kind of struggling with because I'm like, oh yeah, JavaScript, we do it this way and it works. Okay. And so just understanding those things. So my team right now will laugh and say, yeah, I can tell your code by JavaScript best practices being used in Rails. It works sometimes, but like I said, it's not the best practice.
Yeah, I get that. It's hard. It's very, very hard. I think there are quite a lot of opinions when it comes to Ruby on Rails, and there's a lot of convention. So it's definitely harder coming from that. That's why I actually struggle going the other way towards JavaScript because I find there's like it's chaos. There's sometimes like there's no order and structure to that world.
That being said, Ruby itself has the style of people program with in Ruby has changed a lot over the years. If you go back and you look at, and it's not just syntax changes as the language has evolved, the people's sort of what idiomatic Ruby looks like is very different than it was when people first started programming in Ruby. It's fun. You should, if you find some old Ruby code and look at it, you'll be amazed.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So we were discussing before this episode, what do we want to dig into? And I know we've kind of trailed off into something that came up recently, actually, in Fusion, is we've been speaking about teachable moments. So these are moments where we've made mistakes, we haven't done well, we feel like the word failed is maybe too strong of a word, but like we really feel like it's been a bad experience, and kind of sharing those, because there's often a lot of imposter syndrome as well about everyone's an expert, and actually hearing that we weren't, or I wasn't successful on a certain project. That was a cool thing we've been discussing on our team.
Who wants to go first?
I've got a really embarrassing one.
Oh, then you go first.
Oh, my team, and boy, did my team let me know about it. I was coding on a project which was heading towards a tight deadline. And in this modern era, I was coding using AI as well to help me. And I got to a point where I was very, very happy with the code. And then by mistake, I know what I did. Here you go. Here's what I did. The code was done, but I pushed a secret key to the GitHub repository, which I shouldn't have done, right? That happens. Yep. I needed it locally for development because I needed to access something from a third-party storage place. I should have had a separate storage place for staging. I should have best practice, but it was a really tight deadline on a project, and you see, I'm justifying it already.
Yeah,
I've already made
hear
mistakes.
All the excuses.
So that was problem number one. Was I was working with that secret key locally, but I was, and then I pushed it to Git, and that in of itself wasn't really an issue because I could always rotate the key, and I could anyway, let's say, force push. I'd only push to a branch, like a feature branch, so I could anyway force push to the remote repository, the branch again without the key in. So in hindsight, I knew what to do, and that's what I should have done, and then just rotated the key. But I was in this fluster of like, just I need to get this done, I need to get this sorted. So I put into ChatGPT, right? And I said, I've just pushed a key to the remote repository. Just tell me what to do. right? I can't think. I don't have time at the end of a long day. And so what it does is it says, oh, that's not a problem. Just install this third-party Git package. and at this point, right, alarm bells should have gone on. Oh, it's gone off. It was so bad. But in the end, I was just like, yeah, great. There, you know about a package that I don't know about that's just going to sort this out for me in one command. So I installed that Git package obediently. And then it says, I think the next command was to, well, it used some command in that package, which I wasn't exactly sure what it did. I did discover later that the secret key was in a certain file, like storage.yaml, and it removed storage.yaml from Git on my local machine. So now Git has no knowledge of storage.yaml file from the beginning of time. And this is like a 10-year-old project. So I've just removed the history of that file from Git entirely. And then what it's told me is to force push my whole local repository over the whole GitHub repository. Okay? And so I've done that. And then the first time I've paused, because this is what AI does to you, right? It gets you into that mode of like copy paste, and like things are happening and you're not using your brain. And then so the first time I paused is when I force push my whole Git repository. And I realized it's taking quite a long time. Like it doesn't normally take this long. And I read the command and I understood what it was doing. So I quickly hit Control-C. And then I was in a space of, I don't even know where I am anymore. I got no idea. So what did I do? I needed to slow down and calm down. And so what I did is I called my development director at thoughtbot. And I called him, I explained to him the situation. And I was expecting him to be caring and sympathetic. He laughed so hard. He was, I mean, this was, and so he even got someone else on the call so they could enjoy the moment. And it was an enjoyable moment. I was like, oh no. I feel like I was victim to what everyone says you will be a victim to with ChatGPT. Everyone says like, copying, pasting from AI is going to be a problem. And I was, so in the end, what actually happened is I had force pushed my whole local and I essentially had to add storage.yaml back in with a long explanation about why this file never existed beforehand. And you won't find any history of it up until now. And I had to let the client know. I had to say, listen, this is what's happened. There's no ramifications because I've checked through everything and I understand what I've done. But next time you pull, you might have to force pull or something to get through. So you might have to reclone the repo. It was not great.
Well, thank you for sharing that terrible story. That's a great teachable moment because we can actually put AI aside. I think that while that is a component, I think the real mistake that you made there that everyone makes at least once is not slowing down and getting in that panic mode where you've done something wrong. But you start, instead of pausing and slowing down, you actually make the problem worse by quickly trying to
Chad,
and you're not thinking about what you're doing.
I was physically sweating. I could almost feel the release of adrenaline inside my, I mean, it was, in a way, it was a nice buzz, I got a bit of adrenaline kick during the day, but
that's a bad feeling.
Yeah, it's not great.
And I think this is true with technology, through with everything. I really think the lesson I learned when I had a similar situation is you're only going to do more harm than good if you don't know what you're doing. If you don't know, if you've done something wrong or you don't know what you're doing, it is better to stop.
Do you know where my mind went? I started checking time zones because the client was in the US. And I was like, oh, I've got an hour till they wake up. Right, I've got an hour to fix this. Let's calm down. But 100%, you're right. It's like once I stopped, understood what I had done, like taken time to understand what was that package, what command did I run, then I could kind of slow down and start to approach it and solve the problem. I think if I would have kept going down the rabbit hole with ChatGPT and I kept saying to it, no, this has done this, now what do I do? What, I could have ended up making things even worse. But I do think AI is compounding the issue because I've described it like this recently. I don't know if I've done it on a podcast. ChatGPT or LLMs have become a bit of a fruit machine to me when I'm coding. So I don't know if you ever played on a fruit machine.
I don't even know what that.
You don't know what a fruit machine is? Oh no! When you go to a casino, come on, you guys must have invented this. And you pull down the lever.
Slot machine.
Slot machine. Yeah, but you need the fruits to line up, right?
Is that a UK thing to call it a fruit machine? Is that common or is that a you thing?
I'm not even going to Google it now because I've been embarrassed enough in this episode. It's a fruit machine. It's the slot fruit thing.
I'm adopting that now.
There you go. Everyone is. So you pull that down and it basically entices you to keep pulling that lever because you get that hit of, it's like a dopamine hit, but it's also, I'm going to see those three things align. And ChatGPT has become a bit like that for me sometimes. It's like one more prompt, just one more prompt. One more prompt.
Yes. Yeah. And you end up spending more time doing something simple than if you had just done it yourself to begin with. That can be true. AI, I think you're right. AI makes it worse. But I've been in that situation trying to make like a small script to do something that I needed to do, like rename 100 files or whatever. And you spend like an hour trying to make that script work. And you realize, well, if I had just renamed the 100 files by hand, I would have been done already.
Yep.
Oh, that's a great story. Will, you got one?
Yeah. I think my biggest teaching moment in my career was before I got into coding. I was working with nonprofits, and whenever you were up for a promotion, they made you take these like assessments. And this assessment was kind of like, I think it was like EQI, like emotional intelligence. I was like, okay, but this one, they sent it out to people around you. So like, I had volunteers, I had like direct reports, and I think even family. And it was eye-opening because like the results came back and I was like, oh, okay, like this is interesting because I had decent scores, but my empathy was like like 0. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even know that. Like that was an issue. And so I started digging into it, and I've learned a lot since then because I used to be like,
so was this something that people filled out about you?
Yeah, they filled it out about me.
No, that's horrendous. Yeah. I'm not signing up for that. No way. So it wasn't like a self-reflection form that you filled out yourself?
Well, I did one. It was all of it. I did one, and then they did it about me.
And how many people received this survey, the Will survey?
It was about 15 to 20 people. So
it was, hell no. They all said you have no empathy.
Exactly. And I was like, ooh, okay. And like they caught me off guard because we were going through it, and they were like, do you even know what empathy is? And I was like, not really. Like I didn't even like know how to explain it.
It makes sense. If you're not empathetic, you might not know what empathy is.
So I was like, oh, okay, this is a problem. Like I need to. And that was like early years of me being married too. So I was like, I need to work on this. And it was very eye-opening. I've come a long way from that. But it was just interesting because and my perspective has changed dramatically, but I've always been like, you come to work, you do your job, like we just do it. I didn't have any kids, anything like that. Now I'm like, I got kids and I'm coming to work my best, but I got kids. I didn't sleep. I slept 4 hours last night. So, so now that I know that and life is different for everybody, I'm like, oh, I have empathy and I'm empathetic to your situation and how can I help you and stuff. So, but that was probably the biggest eye-opening moment for me, but it also was like the biggest helper for me to grow in my leadership and stuff.
Thank you for sharing. I'm trying to think in my head, like, what would people say about me? they could, because it would be funny if they said, like, doesn't take feedback well. And then as they gave me those sheets, I ripped them up and I threw them back in their face. Because I was thinking, like, the fact that you cared about what they said at least showed you have self-awareness and you have a level of emotional intelligence to care about what people think about you.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Chad, what about yourself? Teachable moments?
Yeah, I have a lot. And I've often said that, people look at thoughtbot and that kind of thing and say, like, oh, you've been so successful. And they only see the success. But we got to where we are mostly, I think we learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. And so thinking back, I think there's one thing that I don't know that I've ever shared before.
Exclusive.
It was very early on.
Yeah, let's play the exclusive jingle, Will.
I should sing it.
So very early on with thoughtbot, we really needed clients. My father-in-law owned a music store at the time, and they had this warehouse management system, point of sale system combined. It was ran on DOS, and that was old. And they really needed a replacement. And we looked at the system, and we talked about what it would take to rewrite a new system that would take over their point of sale and their online website and their warehouse management. And we signed a contract with them, with my father-in-law, for doing that project.
Would you say that the price you quoted was fair and balanced?
We really thought that it was, first of all, it was, at the time, it was the biggest project that we had taken on.
Oh, wow.
And we really thought that we had estimated it correctly at the time. We weren't like underbidding or doing.
And how many people were in the company at the time? Like, how many?
It was the original founding team of 5 people.
Oh, wow. So there's only 5 of you.
It was one of our first clients.
Okay.
And we had an estimated, I think this was 22 years ago or so. So the details are a little fuzzy about what the exact initial timeline was, but I think it was something like, first version in 6 months, switch over, test it out, switch over in a year, something like that, like a year-long project. We ended up not hitting that timeline. It was a fixed bid project. So in year 2, we had run through all of the amount that we were going to invoice. We had multiple people working on the project in an attempt to get things back on track and to get things to the point where they were usable. And what we were running up against was that replacing an existing system that runs an existing multi-million-dollar music store where you have transactions happening all the time and the website and everything. It was and people taking things off of shelves and looking at orders and fulfilling orders. Like, it was much more complex to, in theory, the software was, straightforward, but to replace an actual running business system wholesale was completely the wrong approach. And we had set ourselves up for failure from the beginning because the target was everything. There was no MVP. In year 3, we decided that the technology approach that we were using was wrong, that we needed to start over and target a small MVP, which was the right idea.
Yeah.
Like, what's the one thing we can make working and replace in this system? So we started over from scratch in Rails, because at that point we had switched over to Rails from Java as a company. And we started from scratch again in Rails.
Wow.
I think at the end of year 3, I had to have that hard conversation with my father-in-law.
How did you manage to wait that long? How did you get to year 3 without that conversation?
I think that, one, it was a difficult conversation, so we were all avoiding it. 2, everyone involved had the best of intentions. It wasn't like someone was intentionally trying to deceive or undermine or something each other. So we would have regular meetings and everything, and it's like, everyone realizes the situation we're in. What are we going to do to try to get out of it? We were constructively, but it was clear how much time, it was sunk cost fallacy over and over and over again. And so, and family is tough.
Yes. Family business.
So eventually I said, called him up and I said, I'm really sorry. I don't think we're ever really going to be able to do this. What are we going to do about it? We can't go another year, 2 years, 3 years. And that's where the track we're on, if we're trying to replace the entire system. So what are we going to do? And what are we going to do? We agreed that we would stop, that we would pay back half of what we had been paid, and that we would both just walk away from the project. And it was such a huge failure, but we learned so much about what not to do in our consulting business, with projects, with big projects, with how to replace existing systems, what MVP targets should be. We fell into the rewrite fallacy.
Yeah.
We did basically everything wrong that you can possibly do wrong. Through that failure, we learned, like, thoughtbot became thoughtbot, basically, among other things. But man, that is one of my biggest, and the fact that it was family made it even harder and even worse. Yeah. So if you're listening, I'm
sorry.
Truly sorry again for everything we went through there. And thank you for putting your faith in me and us, and for sticking by as we lost that faith.
But being the foundation of what we then became.
Yeah.
It just was an expensive foundation, but it's so helpful to like share these things, because I don't feel quite so bad about overriding the whole GitHub repo. So I feel a little bit better now.
Just a little bit, and
just
hopefully,
a little bit.
Listeners could take something away from these stories about what not to do.
I have one question before we close it. How's your relationship with your father-in-law?
Oh, it's great. He's amazing. He's such a nice guy. And, he's retired now. He sold the store. So he doesn't have to deal with that terrible software that they were stuck using.
You can always come back.
And you can always come back to the show, where you can find it at giantrobots.fm, along with the notes for every episode. If you have questions or comments, email us at host@giantrobots.fm. You can find me on Mastodon at cpytel@thoughtbot.social.
And I'm on Twitter, X, at Will23Larry.
I'm only on LinkedIn, and I've got my own site, sammybirnbaum.com. But if you also email into this podcast, I'll see your emails and stuff.
Well, this podcast is brought to you by thoughtbot. We promise we don't make huge mistakes on every project. And we've learned from our mistakes over the past 22 years. And so we're really good at what we do now.
And I'm very empathetic.
And thanks for listening. See you next time.